going to take a long time to get solar panels out there. Obviously, putting them on every building, it takes time. We're getting there. But nuclear, we haven't invested in here in the United States in a long time. We haven't had a new nuclear reactor since the early 70s. France is primarily powered by nuclear. Japan stopped nuclear after Fukushima, and Germany, in a very reactionary way, shut down their nuclear reactors, although they've had days where they've had 50% of their energy provided by renewables, so they could afford to do that because of their investment. But putting all that together, would it not make sense, and I'm wondering if you would be in favor of a really urgent deployment of hundreds or dozens of nuclear reactors so that we stop burning fossil fuels in the United States and other places? What's your position on it? And especially for India and China as well, because China is making dozens of them. They're doing it. So what's your position on nuclear as a bridge to get us off of fossil fuel? Curious.
It's not something that I've done a ton of research on, so I don't want to prognosticate, but I do think that it's nuclear gives us the opportunity to do direct air capture in a responsible way. Like direct air capture is like these giant fans or whatever that suck CO2 out of the atmosphere and inject it deep underground or turn it into bricks. And it's a really interesting technology. And if it runs off, but
what was the name of that technology?
Yeah. So there's different types of carbon capture, right? There's DAX, which is like direct air capture. There's BECCS, which is like bioenergy. So like burning biomass and then taking the leftover carbon and burying that. There's like what I call direct ocean capture, like what we're doing. So there's a variety of different carbon capture mechanisms. Now, the careful thing, the thing we have to be careful about is like this concept of additionality. So even if you're putting solar panels out and using that to pull carbon out of the atmosphere, you have to compare that to just using the solar panels to prevent carbon from going up in the first place, right? So if you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you're pulling off the renewable energy grid in order to pull carbon out of the atmosphere, you have to do the analysis of like, is the carbon I'm emitting from like the natural gas plant to replace the energy that's coming out of the renewable grid, does that balance how much carbon I'm pulling down? So it gets really complicated. And that's why like ultimately it's going to require some sort of governance that's going to wrap all this up and like make sure all these things are balanced. Because if we do it in an ad hoc way, I really worry that we're going to lose some of the higher quality carbon sequestration techniques will be given short shrift.
In relation to nuclear, if we were to create, let's say in the United States, some of these small nuclear reactors are now much safer.
Yeah.
If we were to create 100 of them and we could get over the NIMBYism of where to put them for a second, which I think if you told people in California right now, we can start reversing climate change if you approve some nuclear reactors, people in California who are dealing with the smoke issue would be like, yes, let's do it.
Right.
Much rather have a couple of nuclear reactors and deal with that risk. And the new nuclear is so much safer than Fukushima, which was a disaster. They knew where they put it was below sea level, and they took that risk anyway. And they kept that risk for 30 years. It was just really dumb. No offense.
Yeah, I mean, I've read a bit about like how some of them now they fail safe, like they're fail safe. So if any system fails, it shuts down.
Yes.
I think it would be... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I just wanted to know how you direct air capture related to nuclear. You're saying the nuclear reactor is there, and so it's throwing off so much energy, you could actually have DAC going on when it's got excess energy?
I mean, I'll be honest, like I've done a lot of modeling and thinking about how to use the ocean, right? For different things. Like that's kind of where my focus is. I feel like that's where I bring like some sort of like a unique skill set. When it gets to that, I just don't understand the risk curve. So like, I don't want to tell you that I think that's like a fantastic idea. I think that from like first principles, that makes a lot of sense, but I don't have the information to be able to like balance out the risks of nuclear energy. I think that people are probably not looking at the risks when they're against it, right? I bet that people aren't really digging in on all the risks associated with it. And I definitely think that the status quo or like doing nothing about carbon in the atmosphere is like completely unacceptable and will be looked on as foolish.